It is a truth universally acknowledged that a television production in possession of a fine script must be in want of a devoted audience. In this spirit, the recent history of our visual entertainments may be recounted for the consideration of the discerning and elegant reader. There is no scarcity of moving pictures that aspire to capture the feeling of a period romance, yet how few among them ever attain the distinction of a classic. One need only to recall the 1985 telling of Miss Shirley of Green Gables, the much-admired 1995 account of Lizzie Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy, or the 2004 Chronicles of Milton and its industrious inhabitants, to discover what true permanence requires. Such success is not secured by the depth of one's purse, but rather by the harmonious union of three essential qualities: a script of superior intelligence, a cast whose spirits are enlivened by unmistakable chemistry, and a musical score that lifts both scene and sentiment. The 2026 adaptation of The Other Bennet Sister displays these virtues in the fullest measure. Under the expert penmanship of Miss Sarah Quintrell, who, as an artist of the stage, possesses a keen understanding of how thought must be translated into action, the story of Mary Bennet has been rendered with a sincerity both affecting and assured. By availing themselves of Mary's own reflections, and by trusting the eloquence of a countenance rather than the distraction of artifice, the directors, Jennifer Sheridan and Asim Abbasi, have summoned a Regency world of such immersive reality that the limitations of a modest budget are soon forgotten. Before we venture further into the shrubbery, a word of caution is required. Should there be any among you who have not yet accompanied Miss Mary upon her journey, and who wish to keep your expectations entirely unspoiled, I entreat you to look away. For the remainder, let us proceed calmly towards the fountain. The question has long been posed: what shall be the portion of Mary Bennet? Shall it be the elegant blue bonnet, or the dusky shade of pink? The minuet, or the gavotte? The strawberry preserve, or the marmalade? The honeysuckle, or the primrose? In due course, our patience was rewarded by a scene of scarcely 6 minutes, yet so artfully composed and exquisitely felt that it may be counted a masterly achievement, and one which might justly be crowned a near-perfect Regency declaration of love, culminating in a final proposal of the most affecting and romantic kind. Mary, having discovered contentment in her independence as a governess, and having weathered the determined, if misguided, efforts of her mother to secure her acceptance of the amiable Mr. Will Ryder's second proposal, was enjoying a moment of untroubled happiness in a sunlit London garden. It was there that a familiar voice, long absent and much mourned, called her by name. What followed was a triumph of the dramatic art. In the hands of less judicious directors, such a reunion might have descended into excess or sentimentality. Instead, Miss Quintrell afforded her heroine the dignity of righteous indignation. As they stood arranged in a symmetry most exact, Mary claimed without question the full measure of our sympathy.
Miss Bennet,
Where have you been?
The words were delivered with the keen edge of a lady long tried, and at last resolved to be heard, and they entirely dismantled Mr. Hayward's cautious beginning.
Yorkshire.
He replied, with a slight upward inflection, betraying his uncertainty of where the conversation thereupon might tend. It was an answer remarkable for its honesty and brevity, and equally notable for its insufficiency. As Mary pursued her rebuke, Mr. Hayward lowered his head in an attitude of becoming remorse. Indeed, he bore a striking resemblance to a wayward terrier of that same county, once lost, now restored, and properly chastened for his wanderings. Appropriately humbled, Tom stepped towards the centre of the fountain.
Sorry, Mary, please, let me explain.
His every movement a silent but desperate petition for Mary's favour. When she joined him there, her expression remained outwardly severe, yet the intimacy of their shared ground steadily increased. The camera, acting with the discretion of an unseen observer, advanced gently, capturing the tender and decisive moment of a heart which, despite its many protests, at last found its way home. With a determination born of long restraint, Tom gathered his courage and spoke first of that earnest ascent of Scafell Pike in the Lake District, an undertaking once animated by hope, yet later abandoned in what he believed to be a noble retreat on her behalf. He could not then have known that Mr. Ryder had already anticipated him in her confidence, having revealed himself as the unexpected heir to Lady Catherine de Bourgh's estate, a circumstance which inevitably altered the complexion of every subsequent event. When Tom amended his account, owning that his admiration for Mary was not confined to recollection, but persisted with unwavering constancy in the present,
As I also had. As I also have.
her countenance softened in a manner too evident to be mistaken. Her eyes, betraying her feelings more readily than she might have wished, wandered to his lips as he continued, as her mind harked back to their unplanned encounter at the gardener's townhouse. She remembered how Tom had placed Wordsworth and Coleridge's lyrical ballads into her hands, declaring with quiet conviction that the poems would open her heart. It was in that moment, Mary now acknowledged to herself, that her affection for Tom had first taken unequivocal root, and she remembered with perfect clarity the shape of Mr. Hayward's lips then, so remarkably like what she now beheld in the garden. Yet this reverie proved fleeting. When Tom added that he had voluntarily withdrawn, believing it chivalrous to make room for Mr. Ryder's proposal by the lake that afternoon, Mary's astonishment and indignation returned with renewed force. She lifted her gaze sharply to his eyes and arrested him mid-sentence.
Nevertheless, my actions in the mountain...
You thought it in my best interests to graciously step aside.
Tom, thoroughly unprepared for such a rebuke, looked upon her with genuine confusion. He knew himself to be in difficulty, yet found no clear path to recovery. An audible swallow betrayed his apprehension.
So your disappearance was, in fact, you being gracious to me?
Before Mary struck his left arm with such sudden vigour that he cried out in astonished protest. This blow was followed by another, lighter in force but no less earnest in its expression of feeling. To Tom's credit, he bore this assault without retreat.
You and Mr. Ryder, between you, thought that you would just decide on my fate and I would just accept it. Like I'm a grateful cat.
If you put it like that, it does not sound good.
Why didn't you just ask me what I thought?
I was reading between the lines.
Tom pleaded, already perceiving the hurt in her eyes. For he now understood that his misdirected act of nobility had deprived Mary of her claim to choose for herself, a fault of such magnitude as might well deserve the physical chastisement he had received.
There were no lines, Mr. Hayward. There were no lines.
At this, Tom suddenly remembered the words he had rehearsed countless times during his long horse ride from Yorkshire to London. They burst from him now in breathless sincerity.
I know I will never be able to offer you what Mr. Ryder can. I have had to work for everything that I have, and I thought you deserved better than that. That you deserve better than me, but now I realise I will not know what you want unless I ask.
These words halted Mary entirely. Her carefully contained emotions seemed to dissolve as she grasped their meaning. She saw at once that Tom had not abandoned her out of pride, but rather from an absence of it. He himself now acknowledged his error in denying her the liberty to choose between him and Mr. Ryder.
So I must tell you, I cannot offer you great wealth or Italy.
And here his voice faltered as a tear escaped down his left cheek.
But I can offer you my love, and my devotion, and my hope to build a family one day.
For the first time, Mary heard those words plainly from his lips. Her own eyes filled, and as if in answer to his confession, a tear traced its way down her right cheek. He held her arms as though his entire happiness rested upon her reply.
Mr. Hayward, if you had asked me what I wanted, I would have told you. I never wanted Mr. Ryder. I have never loved Mr. Ryder. I love you. I have only ever loved you.
Mary said softly, all trace of anger now vanished, her lips unsteady with emotion. For an instant, Tom's doubt yielded to hope, and the faintest smile touched his lips.
I love you.
Tom answered her declaration, by confessing that his affection had first awakened when he discovered her alone at the gardener's, occupied in playing graces, and entirely persuaded that no other soul was within hearing or sight.
I have always loved you from the very first time I caught you playing graces on your own when you thought no one was at home.
In that recollection lay a moment of pure serendipity, for Mary was granted the most unexpected and welcome assurance that their love had taken root at the same moment and in the same place, without either having been aware of the other's heart. Tom, quick to perceive the gentle warmth of her smile, understood it as her forgiveness, freely given and deeply felt. Encouraged by this silent benediction, he ventured further, speaking with a candour that could not fail to move her.
I have spent my life on the outside of things, but with you, I am right in the middle of it all.
Mary attempted to master her tears, though her eyes shone with feeling. Tom, seeing her countenance so entirely softened, smiled in return, recognizing that the moment he had so long feared and yet so fervently desired had finally arrived. With earnestness befitting the occasion, he spoke the words she had scarcely allowed herself to hope for.
Mary Bennet, would you do me the very great honour of becoming my wife?
These were the words Mary had longed to hear ever since their shared sojourn upon the heights of Scafell. That they should now be spoken appeared almost beyond belief, yet belief soon followed, tender and overwhelming, and despite her best efforts, a final tear traced its way down her right cheek as she answered him, not once, but twice.
Yes. Yes.
Thus assured, Tom finally leaned forward and claimed what was, for both of them, their first kiss. It was chaste and yet full of feeling, assured and heartfelt, a gesture speaking all that words could no longer adequately contain.
That was a yes right away, Mr. David, in case you didn't catch it.
Mary laughed then, a delighted and irrepressible giggle, anxious that Tom should remain in no uncertainty as to her acceptance. She repeated her assent, though still addressing him with the proper sobriety of Mr. Hayward. Tom, with a playful confidence newly won, corrected her gently.
Mary, I think now that we've kissed, you could probably call me Tom.
Her answering laugh was hearty yet bashful, and it drew them together again for a second kiss, and then a third, each given with increasing ease and happiness. At last Mary rested against his chest, and Tom held her close in an embrace of unmistakable relief, as though offering thanks to Providence himself that, despite his many misjudgments, he had been granted the grace to secure his happiness with her at last. Now that the scene has unfolded before us, so beautifully realized by Miss Ella Bruccoleri as Mary Bennet and Mr. Donal Finn as Tom Hayward, it is time to set aside the spoken words so artfully delivered and attend instead to the language of the music alone. When the voices are stripped away and the moment is borne solely upon the cello and the strings, the score reveals itself as an incorporeal presence, like benevolent guardians, speaking in tones rather than speech, lifting the entire scene to a height almost celestial. With the aid of the captions, one may observe the first passage of the cello solo in F-sharp major, which accompanies Tom at the outset of his declaration. Its placement in a higher key reflects the openness, almost angelic in his sincerity, yet also the misdirected nobility by which he had previously governed his conduct. When Mary begins to reply, the cello eases downward into A major, and from that moment, the music remains anchored there. This lower key grants Mary a gravity she had once aspired to, and has at last attained. Attentive ears will catch the subtle alteration in the melody, the quiet notes of reconciliation, from which the composition gathers strength and confidence, rising steadily until the full string ensemble swells at the instant of Tom's proposal, reaching its blooming culmination in their first kiss. Whether or not Miss Anne Chmielewski directed the orchestra to play as the scene was performed for their benefit matters little, for the synchrony achieved is of such perfection that it appears nothing short of magical. One may watch the moment again and ask oneself how it could fail to be cherished by any heart not wholly insensible. How could one remain unmoved by the near-perfect union of a finely wrought script, exemplary direction, and performances of rare sincerity, all adorned with music so exquisitely judged? The observant among you may recall that this scene has been extolled as being near perfect. What then, you may reasonably inquire, was the nature of its flaw? Here I must acknowledge an observation which, once perceived, admits of no forgetting. Though the lapse in the editing was slight, and most likely escaped the notice of many attentive viewers, the inconsistency in the position of Mary's purse from one shot to the next obliged me, however unwillingly, to deduct half a point from the total. The result remains, by my own reckoning, a production meriting 99.5%, sustained with remarkable assurance from beginning to end. In scarcely 6 minutes, we are treated to an abundance of pure romance, enlivened by moments of unexpected situational comedy. These are not clumsily introduced for easy amusement, but arise naturally, earned through character and circumstance alike. I do not make sport of physical violence, even when administered by the fairer sex to the stronger, yet I suspect many will agree that Mary's momentary indulgence was justified. Our laughter is all the readier when we recall that Mr. Hayward is the same gentleman who once lifted her as lightly as a leaf outside the inn upon their return from the storm at Scarfell. Somewhere within ourselves, we recognize that the blows startled him far more than they pained him, and the scene is the richer for it. Thus concludes my reflection upon this singularly beautiful scene, brought to life by the gifted company behind the Other Bennet Sister, and the reason I am persuaded that it will be spoken of with affection and admiration for generations yet to come.